Good morning. Merry Christmas. Welcome to Big Facts. I'm your host, Aaron Barrison. Justin is enjoying his holiday with his family today, so I will be going solo. I got posed a question last night that I want to break down about the 76ers. There's a lot of people that think I'm being way too harsh on the 76ers after one game. So we'll break that down. I'll talk about what I was sent, but I'm sitting in bed last night and I got my eggnog this morning. I was drinking a little bit last night. Every year, we're so connected on social media. We're scrolling through Facebook, and everybody knows one or two people, a different girl or guy that has a different boyfriend or girlfriend every Christmas. Different pictures, different guy, different girl, however you want to call it. So I was given something to dissect last night because people think I'm hard on the Sixers after one game. The Sixers, to me, are just kind of like that crazy ex-girlfriend in your hometown or boyfriend, however you want to look at it. So they go from toxic relationship to toxic relationship, thinking if they could just get a good guy or a good girl, if I could just get a good girl or a good guy, I'll change and I'll be a better person and life's going to be great. So they get a good guy, and 3 months later, he's a bad guy. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. And at some point, if you're a good friend, you might tell your girl, your homie, maybe the problem is you, and there's some issues that need to be fixed and worked on before you can really succeed in a relationship. So all off season, I've heard, well, Brett Brown, he couldn't handle Joel and Ben. The egos were too big. And Doc Rivers, he knows how to handle egos. And last time he had Tobias Harris, he was phenomenal. Does that sound familiar to anybody, given the situation, the circumstance I just presented to you? Have you ever heard this from a girl? Well, my last boyfriend, he couldn't handle me. And my new boyfriend, well, he knows how to handle my personality, but my last boyfriend, he just couldn't handle me. So the 76ers, I know we've all heard it. The 76ers have a new boyfriend. And it's Doc Rivers. And he's the savior. And he's way better than the last guy, Brett Brown. And I'd agree with that. Brett was really good during a rebuild and then terrible when he got some stars and some egos. But there's some flaws that when you're dating, you're not going to accept from your partner. For instance, cheating. Nobody's going to accept the other person cheating on them, right? So you need to simply do what the relationship requires for it to succeed, right? So I'll get into those issues, but I want to break down what was shared with me first. There's a 76ers thread going around, and for anybody that's just joining, I'm doing a live off of my phone and off of my computer, just in case I lose connection on any of them. There's a thunderstorm here. It's windy, so just let me know. So the thread that's going around with the 76ers is that something happened in the game last night that rarely ever happens. And the optics weren't great. It says the win was better than it looked. The optics weren't great. The offense looked sloppy, and we struggled to separate from a fringe playoff team in the Washington Wizards. It goes on to say that all things considered, the Wizards shot 48% from three, and we shot 28% from three. So there was a difference, for those who didn't watch or those who don't know, of 5 3-pointers. The Wizards made 5 more threes on one less shot. The 76ers shot a total of 28 threes, and they hit 8. The Washington Wizards shot a total of 27 threes and hit 13 times. Okay. So how hard is it to win an NBA game when your opponent is that hot and you're that hot and your opponent is that cold, or vice versa. The last 75 games where one team shot over 45% and the other team shot under 30%. In those games, the better shooting team went 72-3. So people were basically encouraged that we found a way to win the game. So for anyone looking at this on the surface, it makes sense, especially considering that there was basically no training camp, very limited preseason for the players to play together and mesh. There's some new pieces, so on and so forth. But I decided that given that viral thread, I wanted to dig a little deeper into this. So last year, the Wizards let up 120 points per game. They were 30th in the league. 30th in the league. They were also 30th in defensive rebounding. So teams were getting multiple opportunities on offense in the half court to score against them. They were probably giving up a lot of offensive rebounds. So they're a bad defense. They're a terrible defense. The other night, the 76ers destroyed them inside the paint. So even though the three-point disparity was huge, they still shot a better field goal percentage for the game. They got 5 more offensive rebounds. They had 26 more points in the paint. There's nobody on that team, anybody on the 76ers is afraid of at the rim. Thomas Bryant is their center. He's 6'10", he's 250, he's a nice player, but he's nowhere near the talent or the skill level that Joel Embiid or even Dwight Howard, for that matter. He's not nearly as athletic as Dwight Howard. And he's not going to stop a guy like Ben Simmons at the rim. Ben Simmons is 6'10", very athletic. He's actually got more of a Tobias Harris build. So that's their center. The Sixers shot the Sixers shot 7 more free throws than the Wizards did and did it at a higher percentage. They had 4 more steals. They had 3 less turnovers. And the only reason that the Wizards didn't have a chance to tie or win the game at the end was because when the 76ers were up 2 points in their half-court offense, which was mostly atrocious for a large part of the game, the Wizards had such a bad defensive lapse, such a bad mental lapse. They left Ben Simmons in the only place on the basketball court that you can't leave Ben Simmons, which is wide open right under the rim. So that viral thread is going around. That's my take on that game and game 1 of the season. But I want to go deeper than that because all that stuff is surface. Most people could see that. All they really have to do is look at the box score. So let's dig deeper. So the 76ers last year finished 6th in the East. So let me give you 2 scenarios that if you told me before the season, I'd probably believe one. I'd question the other one pretty hard. Hey, Aaron, the Bucks signed Giannis to the max. He's staying. They added Jrue Holiday, so they have 3 great scoring options now. Giannis is going to be an MVP favorite again. The Bucks will finish 1st or 2nd in the East, and they'll get over the hump this year and they'll get to the finals. I'd say, okay, I can buy that. I don't love it because I'm at the point with Giannis and the Bucks where I'm like, prove it. You're a back-to-back MVP. Your team has the best record every year. But I can buy that maybe this year Giannis can get over the hump with Jrue Holiday, even though some pieces in their bench are gone. And then somebody tells me this. The 76ers still have Tobias Harris contract. Ben Simmons still won't shoot the ball. We added Danny Green, Seth Curry, and Dwight Howard, and all of a sudden, we're going to hop over 5 teams and get the number 1 seed and reach the finals for the first time since when Allen Iverson was here in 2001. Oh, by the way, KD looks like he did pre-injury, and Karis LeVert, who had multiple 40 and I think multiple 50-point games last year, I know he had one, is now their 6th man, and Kyrie is also healthy, and they're being coached by Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni. And oh yeah, Miami has the best coach in the league, and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson emerged and gave Miami some of the best spacing in the league. And they still have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. And oh, yeah, Jimmy's happy. And oh, yeah, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are now a year older. And oh, yeah, the second and third best coaches in the Eastern Conference are Brad Stevens and Nick Nurse, not Doc Rivers. What are we talking about? My case for James Harden, I know people hate it. I've been defending Ben Simmons for years, so I don't want to hear the Ben Simmons stuff. My case for Harden has always been very simple, and I want to bring up a point about Tobias Harris' contract before I get into that. So give me a team, anybody watching, listening, anybody watching this, give me a team that had a good playoff run last year that has a player that gives you Tobias Harris output with the contract Tobias Harris has. Give me a good playoff team from last year. There's none. Zero. I'll give you a couple teams that have that type of contract with that type of player. And these players actually give you, I think, a little bit more, most of these players, more output than Tobias Harris gives you. Detroit's got Blake Griffin's contract. And I thought about Paul George last night. Paul George, I'm going to put him aside because for the most part, he's an all-star during the regular season and gives you good numbers and great defense. So I'm going to put Paul George's contract to the side. Similar contracts. Detroit's Blake Griffin contract. Kevin Love's Cavs contract. Andrew Wiggins' Timberwolves contract, who's now with the Warriors. Al Horford's contract, who we had to trade a first-round pick just to get rid of. And Russell Westbrook's contract, who hasn't been back to a conference finals since he played with Kevin Durant in OKC, and John Wall's contract with the Washington Wizards, who's now in Houston. Which of those teams is competitive in the playoffs? Most of those teams aren't going to be in the playoffs. But let's move on to the second issue from last year that still needs to be proven and fixed before anyone can even consider calling the Sixers a contender. It's the only other problem. Ben Simmons still won't shoot the ball. It's the same two problems. So if you're not going to take, and I don't want to hear, well, give them time, give them the season. If in game one of a regular season with no fans in the arena against one of the worst defenses in the NBA, when you're left wide open, if you won't take a three-pointer in the opener to start to work on it, or even just a couple shots, you're probably not going to take them all year. So there's two other guys in the league that basically run the point guard or the point forward for their team that people would consider all-stars that can't shoot. Giannis and Russell Westbrook. And I like both the players. I love the way both of them play. They give you 110% all the time. I really like those two players. I've just watched them over the last couple years. Giannis is a two-time back-to-back MVP with a team that's had the best record in the East for the last two straight seasons. I think both they actually had the best record in the league, if I'm not mistaken. They got beat by Toronto in the conference finals 2 years ago and then couldn't make it out of the semis last year. So now, given that information, I'm supposed to believe that the guy on the 76ers, who they drafted number 1 overall, who's in his 5th NBA season and still won't shoot, is supposed to space the floor enough offensively to get us over the hump in the playoffs. The point is, I'm not overreacting to the first game of the season because the regular season doesn't matter anymore. The issues with the team remain the same. You can't have a defensive player on a playoff team with a playoff coach sagging 15 feet off of Ben Simmons, clogging the paint for your best player and not giving his teammates enough space to operate a half-court offense. They can't even keep Ben Simmons in the end of close games in the playoffs for fear of his shooting and fear of his free throws. He's been off the floor a couple games. And so I'm being told that they're going to be a top 3 seed in the East. Like, that would even matter. By the way, they won't be. But if that happened, by some luck, some guys have a poor season on other teams, someone like KD re-injures himself, God forbid. James Harden is out there, and him and Kevin Durant are two of the best scorers in NBA history. Nobody's arguing that. Ben Simmons is being sagged off 10 feet. James Harden is praying someone gives him 10 inches of space and he's pulling up in your eye, or he's getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line. So I don't want to hear about Simmons' defense. It's phenomenal. I'm comfortable getting James Harden and giving some of that up when I have Danny Green as a lockdown wing, Matisse Thybulle as a lockdown wing, and I have Embiid and Dwight Howard patrolling the paint the entire game. So if you think this team can win right now, why wouldn't you want James Harden? So people tell me, well, you don't leverage. The answer from most 76ers fans is you don't leverage Ben Simmons' future for a 31-year-old player on a 2-year contract. I disagree. That 31-year-old player has months where he averages 40 points per game. The 76ers in the third quarter against one of the worst defensive teams in the league the other night didn't score a bucket until they were halfway through the third. And that team that I watched is supposed to beat KD's Nets, Giannis Bucks, or the Miami Heat and place top 3 in the East. No, it's not going to happen. Even the Celtics, who I would consider a 4th or 5th seed in the East, have been whooping their ass for 3 years. They get out coached by Brad Stevens every single year. The coach is great. The issues remain the same. My ex-girlfriend has a new boyfriend. Maybe this is the one, or maybe she just hasn't fixed the issues yet. I don't know. You guys tell me. Leave your comments. Leave your questions. To answer some of these comments, yes, Tobias has to go. If you can get him in a package for James Harden, great. It still doesn't fix Ben Simmons' shooting issue, but anybody would obviously prefer James Harden over Tobias Harris. I think they do need a third star. It is not Tobias Harris. I know a lot of you think that Tobias Harris' contract is the biggest problem, but I want to make one last point. Tobias Harris' best attribute is his isolation, right? So Tobias Harris, a lot of times you'll see Ben Simmons come up the floor. Tobias Harris is over here. Danny Green's over here. Joel's in the paint. Seth Curry's running baseline to baseline based on the offensive ball movement and the defensive rotations, trying to get someone to penetrate so he can hit an open 3. But the fact remains that Tobias Harris is on this side. If you need a bucket and you sign Tobias Harris to get you that bucket, and someone's defending Ben Simmons from the top of the key but sagging 15 feet off him, let's just pretend Tobias Harris is on the left wing, and Giannis is guarding Ben Simmons because they're around the same height, almost the same athleticism, and he's sitting at the foul line or a little farther back, avoiding a 3-second call, but sitting at the foul line while Tobias Harris is being guarded one-on-one. Well, Tobias Harris now can't go right because Giannis is waiting at the foul line and he doesn't have to go guard Ben Simmons. So your best ISO player, who's not even that great of an ISO player when it comes to the NBA, has one option. It's to go left. The defender knows he has one option. It's to go left. He can't go right because he's going to run into Giannis, and the only thing he can do right if he goes right is pull up for a mid-range shot. So until the spacing gets fixed on the offense, the half-court offense is not going to work. The 76ers are going to be a 4th seed if they're lucky. I think they're going to be a 5th seed in the East. We'll see how the season goes. Questions, comments, leave them. I'll be here. We'll be back Sunday with some football. Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my eggnog. You guys enjoy scrolling social media and seeing who your exes are with this year. And we'll catch up on Sunday. Love you guys. Merry Christmas.